adjust it, and finally, if the solution works, we commute it the same to the other people what we have learned from it. So, this is exactly the movement we have been building across the sixth lesson. Right? So, this was our journey we have completed throughout, starting from the first till the last, where what we are talking about research, innovation, and future career. So, looking back, which topic has interested you most? If you would like to share with me, which topic was an interesting topic for you people?
Related to technology.
Okay, thank you. Anybody
IoT,
else?
yes, IoT and sensors.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Autonomous tractor,
okay, awesome.
green revolution, like the use of HYV seeds,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Interesting. Okay. So the reason behind asking this question is there is no right answer for it, or I can say there is no wrong answer for this. The reason is your answer actually gives you a clue about what type of work you might be interested later, right? So what is that technology that finds very fascinating, or maybe you're more interested in it, that's going to determine that what type of work maybe later you are going to do if you are pursuing your career in the same field, that is agriculture with modern AI, right? Then moving on to our next slide. So this is our agenda today. So today lesson has been divided into four parts. First, we are going to talk about research. We'll look at how a question become an actual study and how our researchers communicate what they discovered. Second, we'll take a look at career path, and today that includes not only in the US path but also opportunities in India, because agricultural technology is a global field. So we are going to talk about few of the careers which is based in United States as well as in India. Then third, I'll introduce you two practical exercises where we are going to spend a little bit of time thinking about it, and instead I'll explain them and you will complete them at your home. And if you would like some of the additional practices, you can choose to complete them and you're welcome to submit that. So today progression is a research, communication, career, and then action. And before we begin our part one, let's look at what all 6 weeks were designed to help you achieve. Now, these were the 7 outcomes that represent to complete this entire course. And the first few should feel familiar now. You should be able to explain how AI is being used in modern agriculture. You should be able to describe how, sensors are, drones, robotics, and analytics are. You should now be able to interpret the agricultural data, because we have seen few of the use cases and we try to intervene few of the data sets during our classes. And now you should understand some of the ideas behind sustainable and climate smart agriculture. Today we are going to emphasize on the last three of them, that is designing a simple AI based agricultural solution, presenting a scientific finding efficiently or effectively, and exploring the careers that are involved in AI, agriculture, engineering, and data science. Right? Now, notice something important. The course begins with an understanding, but it ends doing a communication. That's the most important, skill that a real world where you will be knowing something which is useful. Now, let me ask you a question. Which do you think is more difficult? Which do you think is more difficult, either creating a good technical solution or explaining the solution clearly to somebody who doesn't know what these technological backgrounds are? Any questions? Do you think that creating a technology itself is difficult, or communicating or telling or explaining your solution to somebody who don't know about it is difficult?
Creating,
Okay. Technology itself is difficult.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it is.
Okay.
No,
Any
no. In
other
the way of
answer?
AI, we can easily create new technologies to for the users and for the people, but explaining them for people that they don't have really any idea is difficult.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Any other answers?
Ma'am, I think everything is easy according to the person capabilities.
Okay. Okay.
Explaining solution to the people who doesn't know. First of all, we have to convince them because they have trust issues and much more. So
Okay. Okay. So, yes, I also think in the same way that sometimes communication is harder precisely when somebody doesn't know about the technical background. And now, the same thing we are going to see why in just a moment. Let's begin our part one of doing research, right? That's something called as this, where in the next few slides, I want you to imagine that we all are researchers and we are going to follow one simple agricultural example, okay? And the example is a farmer is watering an entire field on the same schedule, but some area remain too wet while others become dry. So our question is, could the soil moisture sensor help us reduce unnecessary irrigation without farming the crop? Right? Now, this is something a very practical solution, but how do we convert it into research? Do you understand the question that we are trying to answer that, or is there a confusion? The problem or the scenario
Will
is
you please repeat the question?
yes. The scenario is a farmer is watering an entire field at the same schedule, but some areas remain too wet while others become dry. This is the scenario. And our question is, could the soil moisture sensor help us reduce this unnecessary irrigation without harming the crop?
Yes.
Right? Now, we know that yes, the solution is very practical. We do have like soil moisture sensors, they can help us to design the solution. But how are we going to convert the same thing into a research? Now, here is something what you see on slide number 6. This slide shows over here the research cycle, and I want you to notice the word cycle. That means research is rarely, but step one, step two, step three, and then that is called as the last step. So usually the answer to one question create another question. That's what it happens in research. Let me walk you through an irrigation example. So the step one is the example that I have given you is, can soil moisture sensor reduce water uses while maintaining a crop health? Right? That's much better than saying that I want to do something with AI and farming. That's the same thing, but we change the entire perspective of the question. Why? Because the second statement is a topic. The first is a researchable question. The step two is a literature. Before we start installing sensors, we need to ask, how do we already know? Has somebody already studied these sensor controlling irrigation? Which crop they have used? What was the climate? What sensors were used? How did it work? What happens if it did not work? Right? So one of the biggest mistake beginning research make is assuming that their first idea has never been studied before. So research does not require every idea to be completely new. Sometimes innovation comes from applying an existing idea in a new environment. Maybe something worked for a large farms in California and the same thing that you might be using in India. Right? So the step one was your question. Step two was your literature review. Can anybody summarize me what did I said about the literature review?
Actually, I didn't understand you.
Mhm. Any other
Will
answers?
you please,
Please go ahead.
explain once again?
So, what I was trying to explain over here about literature review is the first step in the research is your question, what we have asked. That is your research question or the problem. The second step is literature review, where the review provides an information that has this kind of problem arised before and what solution they have applied. What are the different features that they have considered? What type of crop was that? How was the climate? Which sensors they have used? And how much percentage they were successful in identifying this? So research does not necessarily means that you are creating something new. It also means that you are using or innovation or you are applying an innovation to an existing idea, but you're changing the environment. Someone has might use the same thing in California, somebody have might used same thing in United States, and you are trying to do or get the solution for the problem in India. So that's the new innovation, new environment, new climate, new crop, right? So that is what a literature review is. Knowing something happened in the same lines or between those lines, that is what is called as literature review. Right? Then the third step is method. Now we need to decide how to conduct the study. Where will we place the sensors? How often they will record moisture? Will one session uses a normal irrigation while the other session uses a sensor guided irrigation? And how do we measure crop health? How long we run the experiment? These all questions comes under method. When you decide to conduct the study, the fourth step is a data. Now we collect the data, and this is where the real life becomes messy. Sometimes students imagine that the research data is as beautiful as a spreadsheet where they see every cell that is very perfect, right? In the last few classes, I have showed you how the data looks like and what we have seen. We have seen a CSV file. It was beautifully organized in rows and columns. But in real time, the data collection process is entirely, I can say, messy. So maybe a sensor stop transmitting. Maybe one sensor report an impossible value. Maybe there is an unexpected rain. Maybe an animal damages the equipment. Maybe somebody accidentally records something incorrectly. So researchers do not just collect the data, they also need to clean it before using it. So they clean it, they analyze it, they visualize it, and then they question it. And this is where especially important is your AI. If your data is poor, your model can still produce a very confident answer. It may be just be confidently wrong. I mean, the data which you are giving is not correct. Your model will only work or your AI will work based on the data or the input that you are providing. So if your data is incorrect, then the outcome or the model that is being created will also be eventually or actually fine. Maybe sensors guided irrigation reduced water waste, maybe it did not, or maybe it effects only appeared in a certain type of soil, right? A negative result can still be scientifically useful, and then we ask what comes next. And that's why the cycle goes background. Now, maybe our next question become what this approach work with the different crops, right? So from the conclusion, we got
Pardon?
another question. And from that question, we started again the same process of what I have told you just now. Then once we reach to the conclusion, we get another question and then we go into the same loop. And that's why we call this a cycle. Does this make sense to you people?
Pardon, ma'am. In the fourth step,
Mhm.
what we do actually? Can you repeat?
See, the fourth step is where we are collecting the data. So how do you collect the data? What are we trying to say over here is when we collect the data, we cannot expect that our data will exactly look of how we showed in our CVS file, right? It rarely looks like that. Sometimes what happen is I have placed the sensors in a farm land, but some animal have destroyed that particular sensor, right? This may be expected. Or maybe some one sensor report a very impossible value that is very highly unpredictable. The sensors may stop transmitting the data. Maybe somebody accidentally have damaged that particular sensor. So researchers does not only collect the data, what they do, they clean it, they analyze it, visualize it, and then question it. So before putting that in a very beautiful table, they have to clean that data, they have to analyze it, they have to visualize it, and then place it in the form of any of the file where they will work further and get the conclusion. Does this answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay, welcome. Now, our next slide is going to speak us about why, what, and how of sharing science. This is one of the most useful idea from today's presentation. The same science finding should not be communicated the same way to every audience, right? Now, let's start or stay with our irrigation study where we discovered that sensor guided irrigation reduces water use without reducing the crop yield. Now, I'm going to explain that finding to three different people. Okay? First, I am going to start with another scientist. What might that scientist ask? Right? What sensors did you use? How many plots were tested? What statistical analysis did you perform? Can I reproduce the experiment? Scientists may need a methodological details, right? This is what one scientist speaking to another scientist. So their perspective of asking question to your particular research or experiment is different than if any farmer is asking you. Now imagine I'm speaking to a farmer. The farmer may not begin by asking which statistical test I use. The farmer may ask how much will the system cost? How much water could I save? Will I need someone to maintain it? Is this going to make my work easier or harder? The same research, we have done the same research, but two different people ask two different questions, or might be a set of different questions with the different perspective. So, different audience, different questions. Now imagine that I am speaking to a policymaker deciding whether to fund irrigation technology. Right? Now, the third scenario is I am speaking to a policymaker. I want this person to invest in my research. I want this person to fund me or give me money or provide me money in order to build this technology. Now, this person might ask, if we invest $1 million in this, how much water could the region save? Right? How many farmers would benefit? What is the return on this investment? What is that I am going to get if I'm going to invest this? Again, same science, different communication, right? That's why this particular slide gives us a several format. A researcher paper may be appropriate for scientists. A poster is excellent for a quick communication for a project at a conference. An oral presentation lets you tell your story, and a policy brief emphasizes on decision and implication. But regardless of a format, your audience need several things. And what is that? They require a clear question, a transparent method, the key result. What is that you're going to provide to them? Are we good till here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So now we'll move to our next part that is called as, how many of you heard about this word poster? Poster presentation. Okay, can you tell me what is poster presentation? Let me tell you what poster is. A research poster is not a research paper enlarged into a paper size. That's probably the most important sentence on this slide. Think of a poster almost like a movie trailer. If I'm giving you an example, what we are referring to poster as. A movie trailer, does not show you the entire movie. It gives you the story, the important moments, and the enough information to make you interested, right? So similarly, a research poster works in the same way. So on the slide, you see that the poster looks something like this, where at the top you have your title that should be enlarged enough so that your reader should read it from a distance. Then comes your introduction part. Why does this problem matter? What gap are you trying to address? Then you will talk about the methods. What did you do? And a notice that you have to provide as in a form of advice. Then your diagrams. That's going to beat your paragraphs. Instead of writing a large paragraphs, you can convert that into a diagrams. And then your methods, that's like something if we are talking about sensors, cloud, database, machine learning model, irrigation, recommendation. Okay, this is something you are writing which describes your 200 words of boxes. So entire these 200 words, you can summarize this in the form of a diagram, right? And then we reach to the most important section that is called as results, where this slide suggests that the result should receive a very large portion of a space because this is what people come to see. What you have discovered, you can use charts, map, photos, comparisons, then finish with conclusion. What does the finding means? What is the real world implication? And what should happen next? And now what you should provide the solution or what exactly your solution is. Okay, so here in the slide it says about 4 common mistakes that people usually does when they are making a poster, right? So they make too much text, busy background, missing links for the supportive information, and if you avoid these common mistakes, your poster will be very organized and it will provide the information that you wanted to deliver. If your poster looks clean and the format in which I have showed you on this particular slide. Now, let me ask you a quick question. Which would you rather examine at conference? A poster with 1500 or 1500 words or a poster with the 3 clear figure and 300 careful words chosen?
Second
A
option.
poster with, yes, ma'am. A poster with three clear diagrams or pictures and
Mhm.
300 words.
Absolutely. Yes, that's correct. Now, our next slide speaks about a 4-part pitch template. Now, this 4-part structure is useful far beyond your agriculture. Now, you can use it for your class presentation, your research conference, your internship interviews, your project demonstration, and in any of these things which I have listed now. Now, the part 1 is your story, that is called as your hook. And notice that the hook doesn't begin with good morning, this is my name, and I'm going to talk about you, something like that, right? So it's going to come in a way that you are trying to connect yourself with the problem that you're trying to speak about. So you can say, last summer I have been to my grandparents' house and I discovered that the farmers were talking, or a large number of farmers were talking or discovered about the disease that they have seen in their farms. So you're trying to connect yourself with the problem you're going to talk about. That is what a story is about. That's the first part. Now, the second part is the stake. Now, why does this problem matter? Who is going to affect from this? What does it cost? Does it cost money? Does it cost food? Does it require water? Does it has any environmental damage? Does it have any damage to a human well-being? Give your audience a reason to care about why they have to listen to you. The first thing is the story, and the second thing is about who is that is being affected, or the stakes. What is that problem that you're talking about? Right? Then the third part is your work. Now explain what you did, right? And how you did. The fourth part is the result part, and this step where researchers are going to talk about what is the particular, what I can say, result that they have and how it is going to impact. Right? Let me give you an example. Um, uh, it says that because the system detected disease several days earlier, the farmer could inspect a small section of a field before the infection spread. So I have designed a solution, right? You are saying that in the part of a result that I have designed a solution because the system deducts these diseases several days before earlier. I mean, before it spreads to the entire farm, the farmer could inspect a small section of a field before the infection spread. So you're not only talking about result, you're also talking about the impact that you are making with your result. So, four things that you need to keep in mind if you're creating any presentation, any pitch document, any poster presentation, any research, that your story, your problem, why it is important, your work, that is your method, and then your result, that is your impact. Now, the next part, or the part two, is about your career pathway. Now, I want to begin with one important idea, that there is no single agricultural tech degree, right? There is not one path that everybody has to follow if you wanted to pursue your career in the field of agricultural and AI. Agricultural tech exists at the intersection of several disciplines. It could be either agriculture, biology, computer science, engineering, data, business, communication, right? So let's explore all of these paths that we can talk about in this diagram. So these diagrams give you a traditional educational pathway where you have your high school, your baccalaureate degree, possibly your graduate school, right? And then your research or industry. Okay, but the real career aren't always this neat. People changes their major, people discover new interest, people work first and then return to graduate degree later. So don't look at the diagram as a strict rule. Look at it's a set of all possible routes that you have. On the right, we have see some of the three sample majors, that is plant science. If you're interested in biology, genetics, soil, plants, breeding, pets, ecology, that comes under plant sciences, and that could be an excellent foundation if you're going to begin with. If you are something that interest in coding, that is computer science, statistics, machine learning, database or data engineering, computer science, that gives you another route. You, if you're choosing this route, you might never be physically design a tractor. Instead, you will develop a model that predicts whether the tractor should go or it shouldn't go. Right? That's in another field that is called as computer sciences. Then another pathway that combines engineering and biology and the agricultural system is called as biological system engineering, wherein you will be dealing with sensors, machine, irrigation, fluid dynamics, right? Now, a plant scientist may ask what biological process is damaging the plant. A computer scientist may ask, can we detect the disease automatically from these images? An engineer may ask, can we build a device or a robot that detects the field? The same problem, different expertise, different research terms, and the different way of thinking the problem. We talked about three careers. We talked first about, what did we talk about? Which stream we talked about? We talked about plant science, we talked about computer science, and also we talked about biological system engineering, right? I ask you the same, what I can say, question with the three different perspective of three different routes. A plant scientist may ask what biological process is damaging the plant, whereas the computer scientist will think in a way that can we detect a disease that automatically, get an information from the images. And an engineer may ask, can we build a device or a robot that detects in the field? So, three different careers or three different scientists thinking with the three different perspective for the same problem. So, which sounds interesting to you right now? Biology, coding data, or engineering and building?
Engineering and building.
Okay,
The second and the third one.
okay, okay, okay. Now let's see what are the different doors, or I can say the areas that you can explore yourself. This slide gives an information where the student could hear about USDA. They sometimes imagine only farming regulations, but USDA includes a huge research and education ecosystem. This is a research grant, right? Then the next thing, what you can see over here on the slide is USDA summer internship, 4-H youth development, and USDA agricultural research service. So these are few of the federal government funded agriculture projects that's working on here in United States. Okay. You can later view the information of everything is being provided over here with the links. You can explore what does the requirements are, but these are for high school students. In the same way, I have a slide that speaks about 4 Indian doorways that you want to know. So if we move from United States system to India, we have many of the same career category appears, but the agriculture context may slightly be different, right? The first door over here is an Indian Council of Agricultural Research, that is an ICAR, that it connects the research institute, agricultural universities, graduate study, fellowship, and the project positions. You can also find the information from the links that has been provided with each of this information. You can see when are the dates that you can apply and how is the way that you can involve yourself as a part of a research as being a high school student. How is it helpful for you and how you can gain more knowledge, right? You can check off these websites that is going to provide you the information more detailed on agriculture and an intersection between a biological engineering, computer sciences, as well as a plant science. Make sense? Now, here are a few of the funding AI agencies or the agricultural research in India. This slide gives you a several example of different stages of a research pipeline. And the most important over here isn't memorizing every program name. It is to understand that the funding exists at the different stage of your career. So these are all government research grants. They are the fellowship that are inspired, such as Inspire, and they are a state level innovation and the startup program. These are a graduate degree path and through agricultural research institution. And they are interdisciplinary AI agriculture pathways through IITs, right? So a career does not necessarily look like I pay for a school and then graduate and then somebody gives me a job. No, they can be a funded research opportunities along the way wherein you can get a funding involving yourself in a research product or a research project and becoming a part of your training. So you need to search something called as internship, fellowship, assistantship, summer research, innovation challenge, student grants, incubators. These are few of the keywords that you can search if you wanted to pursue your career in the field of AI and agriculture. And these are the funding options that is available in India. Let's move to the next slide. Founder solving agriculture, Indian agriculture. Now, this particular slide gives you a 4 Indian EdTech example. And now notice how different the problems are. We have Fasil, IoT sensor and AI. This connects directly to the sensor concept, what we have studied earlier. Instead of simply measuring the environmental condition, the system tries to turn those measurements into useful prediction, right? So these are the founders where they are trying to solve the Indian agricultural problem. Then we have AgroStar, then we have Croplan, then we have Ninja Cart. So each of the particular founders are working to provide the information or to provide the solution of the present Indian agricultural problem. Moving on, we have agricultural engineering. Now, what is this agricultural engineering? If it roll or pump, harvest or sow, someone engineered it. Agriculture is full of engineering system. We will look at the examples of precision irrigation. Instead of giving the entire field the same amount of water, I've previously discussed this example, an engineered system can adjust irrigation based on actual need. So this connects with the sensor, pump, control system, and possibly predictive analysis, right? Some of that looks like a waste, manure, or an agricultural residue can potentially become an energy resource. That's an engineering problem involving energy, biology, and system design. So what is that we are trying to say in this particular slide is agricultural engineering, we are building it with the 4 different example project. The first one is the irrigation, the second one is an energy, the third one is a vertical farms, and the fourth one is storage and processing that is called as post harvest. So different or the 4 example projects where the agricultural engineering is trying to solve the problem or trying to provide the solution for our modern agriculture. Now, here are the 4 roles that pair code with the soil. What do I mean by this? Now, this is one of the, what I can say, a career slide or a favorite career slide, I can say, because it challenges the idea that working in agriculture means that you spend every day physically working on or in the field, right? Now, imagine in a way that you might spend a part of your day in a field, or you might spend most of the day working in some of the coding programming in Python. Okay? Agronomist data scientist. This person may combine an information of a soil, your climate information, your historical yields, your satellites, and then build a model to understand and predict the crop performance. Now, the typical day on the slide is a lot of time that he spends in preparing data. That's realistic. So, data science is not just building an exciting model, it also means a large part of our working is getting the data into a form where the model can actually use it. So your remote sensing analyst is the role where they uses the satellites and drone images, I can say, that deducts the stress, that deducts the flood, that deducts the pest outbreakages and changes in vegetations. So walking through an entire agriculture region may take up days. So there comes a machine learning engineering, right? Where they are trying to predict or they are trying to get these information, what these analysts require in the form of sensors, in the form of drones, right? So what are we trying to say over here is 4 different roles that pair code with the soil, meaning you need to have an information about the field as well as you are capable enough to create the model which is going to solve the problem, right? Now this slide speaks about 4 edtech startup you should know about. These are few of the examples that shows the diversity in edtech internship, where we have indigo agriculture. Here we see an agriculture intersecting with the soil biology and carbon. Then we have Tula, where this one connects closely to the irrigation problem we used earlier, sensors and analytical help growth. Then we have Plantix. This is a very simple AI example where the farmer seeks plant health. We take the picture and AI analyzes its images and then gives an information of whether what type of treatment this plant required. Then we have something called as climate AI. Here the scale becomes even larger. Instead of looking one plant or one field, the climate risk model can support decision involving supply chain and further growing conditions. That is what a climate AI does. Now, this particular slides is going to decide your skill and your role. Now, student often ask, what do you want to be? Right? We ask ourselves what I wanted to be, which field I wanted to go, this is what my interest is, and this is what I wanted to pursue. So that's not the question that we can answer straight away. So this should be something in our mind before answering a question. And what is that? We need to ask ourselves that what problem interests me and what combination of skills could help me to work on those problems, instead of just asking ourselves that what I want to be, what I wanted to become. We need to replace this question in the lines called as what problem interests me and what combination of skills that could help me to work on these problems or those problems, right? Now, look at the category on this slide. We have a biology, data and AI, engineering, business, communication. Most of these careers do not use only one. I mean, it's a combination and they use a skill stack. For example, plant science plus machine learning. That is a combination where we immediately become interesting, or it becomes interesting for a crop disease prediction or some other type of a problem that you're trying to solve a solution with. Then we have GIS plus statistics. This could lead towards remote sensing. Then agriculture plus programming, that is agricultural robotics. Agriculture plus communication, that's an extension work. Technology plus business, that's an edtech internships, right? And you don't always need to become the number one or the expert in the world that isolates with all these skills. Sometimes a combination of these are the incredible, valuable stream, right? So, what I'm trying to say is, let me give you an example. Imagine we have two people. Person A understands machine learning extremely well but does not know anything about agriculture. Person B understands plant disease extremely well but does not or cannot work with data. Now imagine a person C understanding enough about plant science to communicate with agronomist and enough machine learning to build a model and enough communication to work with farmers. So who do you think would be a person who's gonna be valuable at the position in the discipline? Person A, person B, or person C?
Ma'am, can you repeat?
See, I said person A is a person where he understands machine learning, but he does not know anything about agriculture. Person B is a person who understands everything about plant but cannot work in data. Person C is a person who has enough knowledge, not an expert, enough knowledge to communicate with agronomist, meaning the person who works in agriculture. Then a machine learning, he has an enough knowledge to build a model and he can enough communicate with farmer. So who do you think would be a valuable position in the discipline, in these disciplines?
Ma'am, I think the combination of both.
That is the person C. And why do you think that? because a person C has all the required skills that is required in order to perform the task, right? So your ideology or your idea should be that what skills that is required to take me to that particular position, right? Whether you want to be a researcher, whether you want to be a remote sensing engineer, whether you wanted to be a machine learning engineer or an agriculture engineer, what is that another thing that is something that you can combine and become valuable to your position? This is something that you have to see or understand when you are trying to choose your career option. Now, from here, there are few of the slides that is called as two practice exercises that you can do it in your home, and you are welcome to submit it. This is for your practice, how you can make your poster presentation. Okay, let me take you to this particular slide. You can read about this. It is going to take you around 25 minutes, and where I have provided you an information how you can build a question, make a chart with the white spaces, and then we will have something called as design, and then a diagram, and also your work with the citations and a visual layouts, the poster example which I have told you about earlier, including title, problem, methods, result. Then another homework is what is called as designing your career path. You can choose what interests you and try to find out that a combination of these things will lead you where. Like, for example, you are interested in coding, you're interested in biology, and you know how to write well. So you can say, for example, Python plus biology plus writing. Or you can say GIS plus statistics plus environmental science. So combining two or three things together, what makes you interest? This is really the entire course compressed into one picture slide, right? Now we started by sensing, then we learned to measure, and then we look at the system that acts. Then we decided or use the data to decide. Now we have discussed how those decisions are more suitable, and today we have learned about communication and launch, right? But have you noticed something that this is not a straight line? It's a loop. You collect your data, make a decision, take an action, right? So all of these, what we have learned, I have formed it in a form of a loop where it says you started with your week 1 sensing, then you move to your week 2 that is called as measure, then you move to your week 3 that is your act, then you decide, then you talked about sustainability, and then you launch. And then again, this is a kind of a loop that it is designing, right? So you always sense, measure, act, decide, sustain, and then launch. Now, for this particular slide, I want you to take your mobile phones, scan this particular QR code. This is a reflection form. It is asking you three simple questions. And what is that? What is the single most thing that you have learned during this single 6 weeks? Okay, not everything. You can choose any one important thing that you might have learned about. Then what is that idea that have changed the way you have seen agriculture before, right? And then next thing is, where would you apply what you have learned? So I'm giving you time for a minute. Please scan this and tell me were you able to see the questions. Were you able to scan it? You just need to open your camera and then place your camera onto the screen that is called as reflection form. Give me heads
Yes,
up if you're
ma'am, we
able
are
to see.
able to check the questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You can write those answers after the class and then hit the submit button. Okay? Thank you for confirming that. Then you have a reference slide. These are the references, like I have already told you about, that you can get the information from all these links that has been provided to you. All these links are clickable. You can click and go to that particular website and gain the information in a much deeper way, right? Then next week, we will have our week 7 quiz challenge where you can expect the questions from your entire workshop series. So please review those questions starting from week 1 to week 6. I hope that you already have these slides. You can expect this quiz challenge in a Kahoot. Okay, please review about how the quizzes can be done in Kahoot. I'm sure many of you have already an idea what Kahoot is. And then there will also be a prizes and certifications that will be awarded. So come prepared and ready to participate for your next week. That is for your week 7. Week 7, we will not have any workshop. There will be only quiz challenge where you will be completing the questions of the quizzes on Kahoot. Starting from our week 1 to week 6, you can expect the question from these slides. So thank you, everyone. See you all in the next week. Remember that science does not end with the slide. It starts with what you do next. So keep your interest forward. Try to do a little bit of research. Try to see what's happening. If agriculture is a field that interests you a lot, try to read about it. Try to read the research papers. Try to see what's happening with the problem and who is providing the solution. What best solution that you could determine if you are at the same place.
Ma'am, please repeat the homework.
Mm-hmm. Okay, for repeating the homework, these were the 2 slides I said. Let me take you to those slides. Here with the class activity. So the first activity is you are building a research poster in 25 minutes. I mean, I have given this as 25 minutes. You can extend the time. That's perfectly fine. So based on the example that I have provided you over here as a form of poster, you can check that particular form and then you can read about it. That I require an outline. I want you to bring a chart, figures, data, then a design, and then peer review. That is, you can swap this with another team or another person who can review it, and then you can share. Right? You can pick any agricultural question. You can use AI to help, but you need to cite where you have copied your information from. Okay, I need the citation. That's the most important part. This is homework 1. Then the second homework was you what kind of career that interests you. Not only the one, but a combination of it. Like for example, I am interested in plant science as well as in machine learning. So I combine these 2 careers together. Likewise, whatever interests you, maybe you are good at plant science and also engineering science, so you can combine that too. Okay, you can check from slide number 16 any 3 skills that you can combine and that interest you. Make sense?
Okay, ma'am, we have to follow those 5 steps and we have to complete this
Mm-hmm.
presentation and homework. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. That's
Okay. Thank you,
absolutely
ma'am.
correct. Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome everyone. See you all on next week, and please try to submit the reflection, the questions that I have asked you to follow. I am keeping this slide so that you can scan if anybody have missed, kindly write it and then submit it. So these are the 3 questions that you will see.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanober. It was very
Thank
nice
you.
presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.